Once upon a time, in some old European land, in some forgotten age, a powerful prince stormed a neighboring city, conquered it, took it for his own. But the second he entered the gates, chaos, looting, murder, the whole place unraveled overnight. So what does he do? He calls in his deputy and tells him, "You go there, you take full control, right? I don't want noise, I want order. You have one mission, tame the beast, do you hear?" And tame it he did, with fear, with blood, with horror. Anyone who protested, executed. Any resistance, crushed. Within months, the streets were silent, but the silence came with hatred. People obeyed, yes, but they were seething. And then, plot twist, the prince comes back, he thanks his royal deputy, and then has him dragged to the town square and cuts him in half. Right there, public execution. The crowd was shocked, but also relieved. The butcher was gone, the prince, he became the hero. And in one ruthless move, he got peace and applause. Smart, absolutely smart. But moral? Hell no. But the man who told the story, he called it genius. And his name was Niccolò Machiavelli. And this little tale, it comes straight from his infamous book, The Prince. See, Machiavelli wasn't in the business of bedtime stories. He wrote about power, about survival, about what leaders really do. He believed rulers shouldn't strive to be good. They should strive to win. The ends justify the means. You've heard that, right? Most people think he said it. He didn't. Well, he might as well have. Because that's the vibe of The Prince. You ask, why? Why does a book that reads like a villain's handbook still matter? Why do politicians, generals, CEOs still quote this man? Because Machiavelli said what everyone else was too scared to admit. He ripped off the mask. He said, "This is how power works, people. Not how it should work, not how your teacher says it works, how it actually works." But here is the curveball. Machiavelli didn't just write The Prince, he wrote another book, Discourses on Livy, I'm not sure I pronounced that correctly. And in that book, he sounds like a different man, a fan of republics, defender of liberty. He praises debates, praises the common people. He says freedom is worth fighting for. He says republics make better decisions than kings. He says the masses, given truth, they will choose wisely always. So wait, who is this guy? One minute he's whispering to tyrants, and the next he's cheering for democracy. What are we supposed to do with that? And let me take you back. Florence, 1469. Machiavelli is born into a world of instability. Italy wasn't a country, it was a battlefield. City-states fighting for land, for pride, for survival, you name it. And young Niccolò, he was obsessed with politics. At 29, he lands a job as a diplomat for the Republic of Florence. He travels, he negotiates, he studies power firsthand. And he sees everything. He watches kings bluff and backstab. He watches empires rise and collapse. And at home, he watches the mighty Medici family rule with velvet gloves and iron fists underneath. Then, chaos. The Medicis are ousted. A theocrat zealot named Savonarola takes over. What a name, Savonarola. He bans art, burns books, executes dissenters. Florence becomes a nightmare. But eventually the people snap, as they always do. They overthrow him, hang him. And Machiavelli, he gets back to work, helps build the Republic, pushes the Medici out. Until 1512, they return, backed by the Pope, backed by armies. They take Florence like kings returning to a stolen throne. And Machiavelli is arrested, tortured, exiled. And out there in the countryside, my friends, broke and bitter, he writes The Prince and dedicates it to the Medici, funny enough. It's a job application basically disguised as a book. But it backfires. Because Machiavelli says in that book, a wise prince avoids flatterers. And here he is flattering. They read it and go, nah, too clever, too dangerous. And so he stays exiled, dies ignored, misunderstood. And yet, that book changed everything. Because before Machiavelli, political writing was full of virtue. Plato, Aristotle, Farabi, Mawardi, all of them said politics should serve justice and virtue. It should reflect moral truth. Machiavelli torched that script. He said, forget virtue, this is survival. What are you talking about? To him, politics wasn't a sermon. It was a battlefield. He admired lions and foxes. He admired people who could lie, charm, and kill at the same time. And he wasn't telling you to be evil. He was telling you to open your eyes. He said, stop dreaming, look around, this is how power behaves. And in a way, he wasn't alone. Centuries earlier, Ibn Khaldun wrote the Muqaddimah, and in it he said politics runs on group loyalty and brutal necessity, not virtue. He mocked the court poets who preached justice. He called them ornaments, decorations. And Machiavelli, same energy. And maybe that's why he still speaks to us today. Because we live in his world now, where spin wins election, cruelty sells, and truth is optional. But here's the tragedy. In chasing power, Machiavelli lost everything else. People forgot Discourses on Livy. They forgot his love for freedom and debate and the Republic. All they remembered, the prince. A masterpiece, and a curse, no doubt. The very thing he wrote to get back in the game became the reason he was never trusted again. And maybe that's the lesson. The tactics that help you rise can be the ones that make you fall. Once you abandon morals for power, you might get the throne, but you lose the people. So now I ask you, are we reading the prince as a warning or as a playbook? Because the stage is still set, my friends, and power is still performing. Ta-ta!